Hello, welcome to the Physique Mastery Podcast. This is Scott Tuzna along with Bryan Cron. Today we are talking about protein. Something that I recently saw Bryan post was your little, I don't know if it's necessarily an experiment, but just kind of changing your nutrition practices a bit and reducing your protein intake, which kind of seems like in our industry here, amongst our bros, everyone's trying to get as much protein as they possibly can, and it seems like we're always trying to raise the bar higher and higher, and you're reducing your protein intake. So it piqued my interest, man. What's some of the reasoning behind reducing your protein intake, and let's roll from there. Man, I hear Cruz in the background.
Yeah, my
Cruz. We talk about protein, and what do you get hungry all of a sudden? He can sense
that kid doesn't miss a meal, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I don't know if I guess my idea of moderate protein now is I'm probably around a gram per pound, maybe a bit higher, but which is obviously certainly not a low protein diet, but.
Right.
It's, I've gone through phases where I've been as high as 300 grams a day. I remember for a month or two, way long ago, I tried 2 grams per pound, so I was close to 400 grams a day, which yielded no magic gains. Yeah. It was just magically annoying. So I'm just kind of gotten away from the arbitrary numbers and stuff like that, and just try to have, just a decent amount with each meal. And I try to eat at least 4 times a day. And usually it adds up to around, 160 to 200 grams of protein a day. And as long as the other 2 macronutrients, like the protein sparing nutrients, the carbs and the fat, are where they should be, I mean, I've noticed no loss in gains, it's certainly, if anything, it's been made eating a lot more pleasurable. Right. It's I just find I enjoy eating carbs. Yeah. And so it's allowed me to eat more carbs.
So you've been just gravitating more towards your natural tendencies, your natural way of eating, and it just happens to be that you have a lifestyle, and your tendencies tend to put you around that 1 gram per pound body weight. So if your natural tendencies had you really low, like some people are with their protein, then it would be a concern that we'd have to address. We wouldn't want you to be too low. We want to make sure, especially if you're dieting, you're cutting, we'd want to try to find a way to get up your protein up there. But I think a big takeaway from this is just gravitating towards your natural palate, your natural tendencies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I'm not my calories aren't times 8 or times 10. When you're in a strict dieting context, protein needs to be, it doesn't need to be sky high, but it certainly needs to be at around that gram per pound level at least. Probably a more is better approach can work.
Yeah. And again, muscle sparing and more than anything, satisfaction. We've talked about that in fact. Like protein will keep you satisfied longer. So anything to help you manage that deficit better and preserve muscle mass in the process is going to be a good thing.
And because the other protein sparing macronutrients are so much lower. So I mean, it kind of behooves you to bring protein up a bit. But yeah, a lot of it is I've just, as I've gotten older, I have noticed my palate change a bit, and I do, I don't know, just more like when I was a kid. Like now I'm I really like potatoes, and I really like rice, and I've always liked oatmeal. So I'm not on a high carb diet by any stretch, but certainly that's about 50% of my calories for sure. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm just kind of slowly just watching where my palate is taking me. And it's definitely, especially since turning 40, it's definitely kind of evolved a bit. So
it's huge. And I think it really comes, I find that you find a bigger increase in compliance when you work with someone's natural tendencies rather than forcing a macro ratio on someone. You kind of see where they're at to begin with, and then see where we can improve upon it. So if someone's a little low on protein, all right, let's bump it up a little bit there. If they're cutting and their fat's really high, we know what we can kind of reduce that a little bit and add it in here. But it really, really does pay to pay attention to your natural tendencies. I really find that a lot of people tend to try to, I don't know what the right word is, but paint themselves into a corner. They're just following someone else's blueprint. Like, I actually had this conversation with a client the other day where she was like, I see this bikini model chick, competitive female bikini model there, and she does intermittent fasting. So I all of a sudden completely changed. This person was the client loves breakfast, loves all these different things. I'm like, so you're gonna completely change your lifestyle because you see this. I mean, I could give you an example of a vegan, a vegetarian, a paleo person, a keto person, whatever the hell. There are hot people who have followed all different kinds of extreme diets all around. It's not the diet. It's don't completely change your lifestyle to fit a diet. It always pays to pay attention to your own natural tendencies and improve upon that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the big one kind of industry gimmick that does seem to bear truth is if you ask somebody, how many grams of protein do you eat a day? And their answer is, I don't know. It's always not enough. Like, it's always like, then when you get them to make a food log, it's like they have like 40 grams a day.
Yep.
It's so that's one kind of thing I've learned is when I ask somebody that question, how many grams of protein do you eat a day? Or even how many calories, like always there's not enough protein.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be, there's no magic number, and it's so much, you can get there with so many different approaches that, I'd much rather, see where their palate kind of takes them naturally, or their eating pattern. If they're breakfast people, why the fuck would I take away breakfast? Like, why would I do that?
Right.
If they eat like a boneheaded breakfast, I'll tweak it, give them ways to improve it. But and just the opposite, lots of people just feel nauseous in the morning for whatever reason.
Yeah.
To make them start, hammering down eggs, you're just, why would you do that? I mean, just if it becomes an issue down the road, maybe you can get them to try to eat a little bit in the morning or whatever. Like, just you start with where their natural way of traveling and just make that better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find for myself in terms of protein intake, I don't have a problem hitting. It's pretty easy for me to hit the 100 to 120 grams of protein throughout the day. To get more, I usually have to rely on supplementation, which isn't a bad thing. It can be a good thing. Whey protein powder, isolate, can have some health benefits to it, but it's a convenience factor, definitely. But I find if you start getting to the point where, in order to hit my you're really focused on, I've got to nail this higher protein target. You're having multiple shakes a day. I find it becomes, I think, less enjoyable, more forced than anything. And I do find it's tough, especially for bigger guys too. Like someone who's 230, 260 pounds to get 1.2 grams of protein per day in their diet. It's a lot of meat that they have to be consuming, and they do find it tough to hit that target without supplementation.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a protein supplement. Just once you start seeing guys having like 3 shakes a day, I'm like, oh man. I mean, that's will it still work? Probably. I mean, like Dorian had 2 shakes right up to Mr. Olympia. 5 days out, he cut it out. I mean, he's Dorian. Bowed to Dorian. But like, I just think of all the dietary displacement, like all the things you're not eating because you're relying on these freaking shakes. Like you're not having real food and you're not having vegetables. Unless you're making these super smoothies with like kale and fucking whatever, But I mean, I would just rather see people less shakes and just more whole foods, man. And it's not even a protein thing; it's just a nutrition thing.
Good wholesome whole foods. For some reason, like as we're talking about all this, I just had like a flashback to when I was in university, when I was like into the heart, when I was like full blown as bro as I've ever been, and working on the line at Chrysler. And working with a whole bunch of other guys who were really into bodybuilding. And we had to get into the van. We installed the seats where I was at. So there'd be a couple of us that we had to carry the seats in there. We're all bodybuilders. We're all pounding our protein shakes and eating like egg whites like crazy. Like I can't. I was probably eating easily 14 to 20 egg whites a day, and so were all these other guys. And man, were we letting them rip? Like the gas, our gas was horrible. So whenever I found that I need to push it beyond where I'm at, really forcing it, and I'm looking at things like egg whites and stuff, and I don't mind a few egg whites here and there, but when I really get it up there, it's nasty. It's just nasty and it's just not human.
I got the habit of, you could buy the frozen egg, or I don't know if you can still buy them, but they used to sell, there's an egg plant in my hometown, like an egg processing plant. I don't know what the fuck. I guess chickens were there. They make egg. I don't know. Anyway, they would sell to meatheads like the frozen egg whites, like in these big tubs. And guys are like, I can scramble them or I can just make shakes out of them because they're pasteurized. So you could drink them raw like Rocky and not throw up.
Right.
So egg whites gets really monotonous as like when you scramble them. So it's so much easier to make a shake, So you just, add some sugar-free chocolate syrup and you got this, just flavored egg white, whatever. I was drinking like 3 of those a day. And just, I guess because it's not cooked. Like the gas I would get would be just, I don't think I was with my current wife at the time. I don't know. Maybe I was. She deserves a freaking medal because it's just there's that sulfur smell. Like there's nothing like it.
There really is. It's so
weird.
true.
Like, but it's weird because like odors like are so powerful. Like they trigger memories. So I'll be like out somewhere, and if there's meatheads around, one guy will let one rip, and I'll pick up on that smell. And I'll just know exactly what that dude's diet is. And we'll have this like fucking bond. Then,
exactly. I'm sure that's what inspired I don't know if it was the last podcast we had or a recent one where I had my fart tank top on, and it was oh my gosh, I have this little Furious Pete, the eating competition dude, Furious Pete, his t-shirt, his tank top there with fart on it and the little gas thing blowing out of it. Oh, it's been known in the bro circle. So I guess that's where the whole protein thing is. There is a segment of our industry that is like over proteining themselves, and then we get a lot of our clients who come to us, and oftentimes protein's something that we have to bump up on them. So it's just always, I find it interesting and is intrigued when I saw a bro like you saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to reduce my protein intake. And we've heard guys like John Meadows recently and some other bodybuilders. Exactly. John posted that he's not obviously very serious bodybuilder. And, his protein is much lower, like around that gram per pound, if that. Granted, you could say, well, look how big he is. He's already built all that size. He doesn't need as much. And I'm sure that's a factor. But I don't know, man. I think like for building muscle, carbs is where it's at. Carbs, energy, man. That's what gets me through the workouts. Love having the carbs in my system. I can push myself harder. Great pumps.
Not a shit ton of carbs, mind you, but certainly more than protein. Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but no, I do. I guess the takeaway is how you naturally like to eat, provided how you like to eat isn't absolutely ridiculous. Is probably like a good framework to build upon. And I've never had success, taking someone who hates breakfast and saying, all right, now you got to eat 6 times a day. You got to eat within 10 minutes of waking up. It's so much more efficient and effective to just take someone's natural way and just, all right, now we're going to make it better and make it better. And there might, and maybe there'll come a time when you have to instill or ask for breakfast or stuff like that. You start with where they're at.
Yeah. That's all our numbers are based on that. How we set up someone's macros is always based on, or meal frequency. It's always based on the feedback we're getting from them. It's working with where they're at, and that's key rather than just plugging in someone's numbers based on some general guidelines there. Awesome, man. Excellent talk. Great to be back.
Great to be back.
Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts on protein intake, where you're at, and we'll catch you next time.